I believe that many women use the statement, "I want a nice guy," as a test. When many women went on national television in the 1980s, 1990s, and early 2000s to talk about how bad their men were and what they wanted in a guy, it was an attempt to socially condition many men in Generation X, including me, into becoming white knights. Many of us men were too young at the time to comprehend what a test was. We therefore took the women's words at face value rather than comprehending their true motivations. At the time I took the test, I had no idea what one was. However, I ignored it unconsciously because I decided that, at that young age, I would not become a nice guy and would instead focus on how I looked. I would convey my values and beliefs through my body and clothing. I didn't realize it at the time, but nice guys are more likely to attract women if they have other desirable physical or financial qualities. If they are attractive, well-dressed, or perhaps wealthy. When they say they want a nice guy, they mean a nice-looking man, not a nice guy who acts nice. When it comes to a lot of men, there is frequently a problem communicating the difference between looking nice and acting nice. It would appear that, rather than considering their appearance, the majority of men interpret the word nice in terms of their actions. When I was in high school, I focused more on how I looked than on who I was. Men and women alike would frequently criticize my actions. However, in the end, I would still have girlfriends. However, men with pleasant demeanors but average physical attributes frequently remain single for life. A man can look average with a great personality without doing much work, and 70 to 80% of men in our society today look average. But I'd wager that a man spends most of his day dressing well and earning the means to look above average. However, he also suffers from the negative effects of putting his efforts into things in the material world. A man won't be able to find the personal balance unless he carefully plans his day to focus on both his personality and appearance with the limited energy he has. However, if a man decides to remain single, he can concentrate on developing a fulfilling inner life. Those who continue to date and look for companionship probably need to work on both. Additionally, I believe that the idea of a nice guy baffles some women. They receive contradictory signals, just as some men do not comprehend that women frequently put them through tests to be nice. The fact that the board collective's directives originate from the women in the same way is unknown to some women. As a result, relationships can be challenging for many women. Women may attempt to make a perfectly good man who appears to be successful on the outside into a sappy man if they are not intelligent enough to understand what a nice guy means to the female mind, because they are misinterpreting what other women and cultures are saying in general. During my previous relationship, I was a man who spoke his mind. Because I defined my identity based on how I looked on the outside for the majority of my life, my personal life suffered. I would exercise and maintain my style. I was able to define it by the way I looked and the money I made. Instead of relying on my perceptions of the world, I based them on the opinions of others. My ex-spouse convinced me to go to therapy and start working on my inner self so that I could behave better in public outings with her and her friends. In addition, I now believe that because it made her nervous to be around her friends when I was with her, my impulsive and unchecked behavior made her feel embarrassed. As a result, instead of letting the outside world define me, I started putting more of my attention on becoming the nice guy I wanted to be and less on how I looked. I became more passive and stopped talking about how fashionable, working out, and I was. I started focusing on unidentified problems and trying to solve those problems instead. Additionally, this brought up brand new issues I was unaware of. I altered my values to fit my partner and stopped caring about them. I failed the excellent guy test. During my most recent long-term relationship, I put my outer appearance ahead of my rich and meaningful inner life. I let her teach me to be a nice and thoughtful guy in the hope that she would want those qualities and find me more attractive. I noticed that we were drifting apart when it did the opposite. She was initially drawn to me because of my traits, but now I have traits that make her feel worse about us. When you pretend to be a man, your ego and self-confidence will soar, and you will also attract more women to yourself. You can begin to believe what you want and then put it into action. Because confidence draws in others, your success frequently becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you are too old or surround yourself with people who think you are a tyrant, talking highly of yourself backfires. But most of the time, as long as you act independently and don't hurt anyone else, you can do whatever you want. You're acting incorrectly politically, in my opinion. When a man's attractive, many women find this to be an attractive quality. Another person I want to talk about is Luis Marco. He tells us that he has had 20 matches with women in their 20s, which is interesting because he probably posted selfies on Tinder. I believe he is in his late 30s or early 40s. He is muscular and in the best shape of his life. Because they look like curves on a girl, big muscles draw a lot of attention from women on Tinder. Would he receive the same number of responses and matches if he were merely a nice person with average looks? Probably not. I think that a woman will subconsciously conclude that a man is not a nice guy if he puts a lot of effort into his appearance by working out, dressing well, and owning expensive items. Kim is also known as Keith Kim Anderson. However, I'm confident that keeping his name gender neutral makes women feel at ease given that the subjects of his photographs are young children. In addition, the woman appears content in the final image, which shows her lying next to the muscular man with her neck around his. Therefore, even in these photo sets, women's body language when receiving flowers frequently reveals what they think of nice guys.